Weird with nobody sitting right there.
That's the hot seat.
There you go. I like the way we all dress like roadies. I got a request. Rhyme with the ancient narrator by Iron Maiden. That's a brief one. Which one here, Ryan? What? Can't really do Metallica on this thing. We'll do a couple out of road, but I'm ready when you are. If you want to go ahead and introduce me. Awkward silence.
Well, as we're waiting for some other folks to come on in, we've got some more people wandering around, but we want to go ahead and get started. Thank you all so much for coming to our spoken word event. This has been a long time coming. We had planned on having a spoken word event for the show that we had a couple of years ago, and that was our Black Heritage show. And as you may remember, a couple of years ago, something happened and everything got shut down. So because of COVID, we were never able to do that program. When this exhibition opened, this exhibition that we have in our space right here is called Mother Tongue, the Language of Family. And this is all Steffen Thomas work here in the show. And it's all about language and literary influences. If you read something that's inspired you, if you some language has really grabbed you and you created something that comes from that. We have works in here that are inspired by Walt Whitman, Goethe, we have Letao here, and so really recommend that everybody take some time as we're exploring this show. And today is the last day of this exhibition. It's closing today. But we thought, what a perfect opportunity is to take our show about language and revisit this incredible idea of spoken word and the power of language. So we're very thrilled to have 3 performers with us today. And we're going to start out with Ty Manning. He is a very familiar face around here. We are big fans of Ty. He's been an art educator, brought students here before. He is no longer teaching. He is doing full-time creative work, writing songs, performing, making art as well. And so we're thrilled to have him. He has an incredible band I love the name of the Ty Manning and the Slaw Dog Biscuits. So be looking out for that. Any new shows coming up?
I'm playing in Winterville at the Front Porch Bookstore, September 10th.
All right, September
And
10th.
then I'm playing Nowhere Bar on Halloween. That'll be a trip.
Great, great. We've got some good ones. Keep your eyes open. Follow him, find out what he's got going on, and I am going to turn it over to Ty.
All right, cool. Coming here, I gotta just shout out to this place. The first day I was a teacher, the lady I replaced, she told me to come out here and check it out. And I came out here and it was locked up because I got off work at 4 and they closed early. So I was banging on, I knocked on the door, and Steffen's wife answered. Lisa's mom, or what I call her, everyone call her, Sarah. But she walked me through and explained all the paintings, and wow, I felt like she adopted me that day. And I've been here 20 years. But since this is about literature, I told Mandy, I've read about 4 books that I had to read. I didn't have to read for school. I've only read stuff that I was forced to read. So most of my stuff is just personal stuff, or I had a couple of little bitties that probably some of y'all have never heard before. So I'm gonna just shut up and say, 20 years ago actually 30 years ago when I moved to UGA to go to school, I lived in this little town called Trudy, and my dad just retired from the Army and he is raising horses, and he lives in this big farmhouse. And I wrote a song about how I was missing home when I was in college. And now I'm retired, and I'm soon after selling my house, which is right around the corner, I'm going to move back to Trudy. So I figured it'd be appropriate to play a song called Trudy. And it goes like this here. Painted horses and butterflies and bluebirds flying through southern skies. Dusty dirt road, oh, won't you please take me? Down south of Georgia, beneath the shady tree. Up on the humpback, under the stars, the sexy sound of a blues guitar. Down home serenade, or carry way on back. Way back into that swamp, beside the railroad track. The Broadway lights in Hollywood, they's both fine, but they ain't as good. Down south in Georgia, beneath the shady trees. No better place, no better place for me. I said there's no better place, no better place for me. Stand up. Now that's a song called Fruity Blues. I was trying to figure out what I play. I write a lot of songs, and probably a lot of them aren't appropriate to sing here. So I was trying to figure out the coolest songs to play, and I was thinking in songs I have that were kind of inspired by literary works. I've taught school in Morgan County for 20 years, and there's this sweet lady named Susan Segrist, and she's a sweet lady. She's always trying to cheer people up. And recently I've needed a lot of cheered up, but she wrote a little poem on a napkin saying, I couldn't be me without you, saying how everybody helps each other out. And she wrote this the first lines of this song she wrote on a napkin. And I went back to the art room and I pounded out a couple verses in the chorus. And every time I play this song, I say, if anybody works for Disney, let me know, and we can hopefully get this in a Pixar movie. My attempt at being Leon Redbone here. If I was a coffee, you would be the cream. If I was sleeping, you would be the dream. If I was a song, you'd be the melody. Without you, it wouldn't be me. If I was a raindrop, rainbow you would be. If I was a flower, you'd be like a fall to be. If I was a sun, the tree. Without you, that wouldn't be me. We go together oh so perfectly. A bond is strong and sturdy like a sycamore tree. There is no renown and I can guarantee. Without you, I wouldn't be me. If I was the ocean, you would be the beach. If I was summertime, you would be the breeze. If I was the sun, you'd be the light and the heat. 'Cause without you, I wouldn't be me. If I was a train, where would be the tracks? If I was a Jill, you could be my Jack. If I was the lock, you'd be the only key. Without you, I wouldn't be me. We go together oh so perfectly. Our bond is strong and sturdy like a sycamore tree. There is no night and I can guarantee. Without you, wouldn't be me. Everybody go. Dig it. Quit being an idiot, Tyler. We go together oh so perfectly. Our bond is strong and sturdy like a sycamore tree. There is no denying and I can guarantee. Without you, wouldn't be me. I said without you, wouldn't be me. Now for something completely different. All right, like I said, I was on a journey going through all the songs I've written over the last 51 years, and this is the closest I have to a literary inspired song because I wrote it in a bookstore. I was surrounded by books, so I think osmosis made it smarter than all my other songs. Anybody know Adelaide Porter? I think she used to write for the newspaper. When we were writing the song, we were trying to write a song about a girl. I don't know if y'all familiar with bluegrass music, but bluegrass music, there's usually three ways a song can go. One is they find Jesus. One is somebody in a love triangle dies, or both of them. So we had that in the back of our heads, and then we're like, we need to figure out a story, and we saw that lady's name and we thought it was pretty. It would be pretty in a song. I don't even know the lady, but I had this really happy riff, and I said, let's make a happy song about somebody dying. That's how easy it is, folks. Are y'all ready?
Yeah.
All right, and I'll give somebody a bit of honey candy that's in my pocket if you can guess who dies in the song. Oh, the night that I met you, I heard angels sing. They said, boy, don't be foolish, buy that girl a ring. So I traded in my money on a big old rock that shines. Then I set out to make that girl all mine. She said loving her was something I'd live to regret. So I just chalked it up as playing hard to get. You don't mind a little pleasure with your pain. That's the day I fell in love with my sweet Adelaide. Oh, they used to buy and I was a guy who tried to play the honest part. She never took my name, but she never broke my heart. Oh, little lies and bits and starts of voice could bring a tear to my eye. After all we've been through, finally it felt so right. Well, now the doctor said that we'd soon be free. She finally made it and she said she'd marry me. And I was too jumped up in pleasure to foresee the pain. On the day I married my sweet Adelaide. Something borrowed, something blue. We said our vows and started making plans. She finally let down her guard and let me be a loving man. Oh, pinks and blues and baby shoes, I'd never seen a shine so bright. After all we've been through, it seems so right. Oh, but she was at her mama's and I was working late. She never saw them coming, they never hit the brakes. Picked up the phone, but I heard them say she's barely hanging on, and the baby's on the way. Back and forth in the waiting room, doctor bust in, said no time to lose. Held her hand in mine and kissed the tears from her face. Never thought that they would take her away. On the night that I lost you, I heard angels sing. Wow. Let's see, how about I do one more and we'll keep this party going. Can I tell you a story? All right. Don't tell my friend Blue I said this, but one time my friend Blue got arrested and he had to do community service, and he's really lazy and cheap like me kind of, and he said, what's the easiest thing I can do for community service? And he found out you could go to the old folks home and read to them. And so he did, and he went every Wednesday for like 6 weeks or something, and he liked it so much that he did it for like 6 years. And then when I met him, he's like, you should come bring your guitar and entertain my friends at the nursing home. I was like, all right, cool. So I showed up And we get there, and there's a sweet little woman named Helen that danced the whole time we were there. She's like late 90s, and I told her me and my friend Betsy Frank had a gig at the theater that night, and she wanted to go, and so I was politicking for her. I was like, "Can we take Helen and I'll bring her back? I promise we won't hurt her." And apparently that you can't do that if you're not related to them, in case you're wondering. But she said she was mad that she couldn't go with us, so she grabbed me. She goes, "Oh, I'm ready to WRIDE out of here." And I'm like, "Ride? She's ready to ride." Whatever. And so I told her that they won't let us take you, but I'll write you a song. So when we got to the Georgia Theater, I wrote this in the backstage of the old Georgia Theater, and it's called "Ready to Ride." And I've sang it a lot over the last 20 years, 10, 15 years, whatever. And I've never really realized how weird it is. It's kind of weird, but the series, what's I can leave you with here as I ride off. If you're going through hell, just ride on through, ride out. No matter what you're going through. I think this song references bad marriages and domestic violence and slavery and a bunch of other crazy junk, but it's all written in fun. And how many people have heard of Al Green? Okay, here's a totally random story with my ADD brain. One time I did a tour where me and my friend were playing Waffle Houses, and we did like 17 days that we did 20-something Waffle Houses, and we would play a couple songs in the corner for free, pass rounds and stuff. And they go, we went to Memphis, it's 4th of July, and we want to go on Beale Street because that's where you go when you go to Memphis. And apparently Beale Street after dark on the 4th of July is not really a safe place to be. And we went to this bar, and they had a mechanical bull, and it looked like, safe place to be at. The next thing you know, we heard a bunch of gunshots, and the girl working the door just shuts the door. I'm giving y'all way more information than you need for this. But they just shut the door and acted like it was nothing. Apparently people get shot on Mill Street late at night all the time. So, but when we want to leave, can you call us a cab? And they start laughing at us. They said, "Cabs don't come down here after 9 o'clock. And then so we had to run, step over some dead people, and then run up the street, get the cab, and then he drove the long way around to get to our hotel. And we told the cab driver where we were, or the hotel clerk person where we were, and they go, "Sounds like y'all need some Jesus. Y'all should go hear Al Green preach. She preaches right down the road here." So we went to see Al Green preach, and this song got a little more soulful after seeing Al Green preach, because every time he said anything at church, the people in the church would repeat it back to him. So if he went, "Hi, hey, hey," they go, "Hey, hey, hey." But I dare anybody to repeat what I say. You can figure it out. Let me be Al Green for the next 3 minutes. And this is for anybody who needs to run off. Who's ready to ride? There you go. Who's ready to ride? Ready to ride. Are you in there? No FT. Running to the other side. Just smile and keep walking. Don't let nothing stop your stride. She's WRID, ready to ride. Well, she was born in Mississippi, picking cotton. She's just a little girl. She really hated the man, so she worked herself out a plan. Lord, she said, "I want to see the world." So she's ready to ride. Ready to ride. Ready to ride. Ready to ride. Made it to the other side. Just smile and keep walking. Don't let nothing stop your stride. Oh, the WRID, ready to ride. Oh, she met our man, no St. Louis. She fell in love. He took his hand. He liked to be his wife, just like on Tina's ice. Lord, she said, "I'll try to bet our man." Come on. Who's ready to ride? Ready to ride. Ready to ride. Ready to ride. Since DIVORCE, looking for a better life. Just smile and keep walking. Don't nothing stop your stride. Oh, W-R-I-D-E, ready to ride. Dance solo, come on, dance. Dance for heaven, come on now. Jesus loves you when you dance. Here's my outbreak moment, ready? I said, amen. Everybody singing. Amen. That was pretty, y'all. Oh, them angels came a-calling. They said, girl, it's your time to go rest high on that mountain. Drink from the Lord's fountain. And I heard her whisper these words as she died. Oh, I'm ready to ride. Ready to ride. I'm ready to ride. Ready to ride. I'm ready to take my place up in the mansion in the sky. But I finally saw the light, yes I did. 'Cause I'm W-R-I-D-E, ready to ride. Oh, I'm ready to ride, ready to ride. Are you in there going? I've made it to the upper side. Just smile and keep walking. Wanna nothing stop your stride. Oh, W-R-I-D-E, ready to ride. W-R-I-D-E, ready to ride. W-R-I-D-E, ready to ride. Oh, yeah. Thank you all. Hey, just a random cool story. I just had a mind part. Maybe I shouldn't say that. Thanks for letting me be an idiot in front of you.
What a thrill to have Ty here. Thank you. We really appreciate it. A great way to get started. And I want to go ahead and turn over to our second performer that we have today. We were really thrilled to have back in June. We did a wonderful Father's Day workshop with poetry and imagery, and that was with Josina. And we're so thrilled to have you back with us today. And I want to tell you just a few things about Josina. She's got a lot of different things going on. Writer, mother, farmer, and poet, based near Athens, Georgia. And her work is in several anthologies, Ecotone, Fourth Genre, About Place Journal, Sojourners, and in Fight Evil with Poetry, and Bigger Than Bravery, Black Resilience and Reclamation in a Time of the Pandemic. Wow. And she is a senior writer with Bitter Southerner, of which I am a huge fan, so I'm very excited when as I was pointed out by Mandy, I say that all the time. Just love that, and we're so thrilled to have you back with us. Thank you so much for bringing your beautiful family, and please come on stage, right?
Yeah, set the timer so it'll go over. But I'm thankful to have a chance to wear my dress up clothes and get off the farm and come on out to meet you all. So I'm going to start with this poem. It's called Pick Your Own. She didn't even ask. Just said it's what she'd like to do the next time she sees me. And I stared hard enough for her to stumble, mumble something about catching up too. After all these years of friendship, or was it just proximity? She didn't know not to say this to me, or any of us with calloused memories crusted in the folds of our gray matter. Our foremothers slipped these memories, tucked them in fuzzy corners of our mind pockets, memories of picking heavy bags of cotton, picking the meat off discarded bones, picking splinters from unshod feet, picking through scraps of lumber, muslin, metal, enough to build a life, picking up other people's messes, Lord, picking our tired selves up, picking our hair into halos, I swear. After all these years, she thought she could just pick my brain. So this next one is about vultures, and I'll just start there. I'm gonna shoot them, my husband announces. I just got pooped on. I felt bad for Michael as he pulled off his shirt smeared with vulture poop, but I wasn't gonna take his side on this. I stood with the vultures. You can't kill them, it's illegal. And you know, I think they're here keeping watch for a reason. I don't want them to go away. Not yet, maybe not ever, not until they're ready. Black vultures are nesting in the old barn in our backyard. They perch on the large cedar and the dead tree out front. We moved into this old Southern farmhouse and the vultures came with it free of charge. Vultures lay their eggs in the place where they were hatched. And the first time I walked this property before it was our home, I saw a baby vulture hopping near the barn. Its downy feathers looked like gray wool, but that would be its only resemblance to a lamb. I jumped back in surprise as if I'd seen a goblin. But I was also weirdly pleased to know that these strange birds would be my neighbors. Vultures are not the kind of bird to grace the front of holiday greeting cards. No one in the right mind sets out feeders to attract vultures. They're carrion eaters with bare bald heads and wings that beat like leather. They do not sing. Instead, they make deep and ancient croaks. They seem like the dinosaurs they are. We moved to this house in rural Georgia for many reasons. One of them was because I wanted to write. In particular, I want to write the stories of Southern African-American rural people who came before me. There are so many stories buried in this land, I tell anyone who will listen. The people that sold us this house and 4 acres let us walk the 40 acres of backwoods that lead all the way to the river. The woods are young, less than 100 years old, where sweet gum, oak, pine, thick privet, and tangles of brambles grow. There once was only cotton. Cotton as far as the eye could see. If you squint and look only at the silhouette of the land, you can see the terraces, painstakingly sculpted from hand-hauled river rocks by the hands of men whose names I do not know. But when we first saw Newton Arnold's tombstone, I jumped back as if I'd seen a ghost. An African-American cemetery was here, was plowed over, erased from the map in the middle of the 20th century. The people who sold us this place bought the land in the 90s and found his tombstone toppled over in an overgrown field. They set it in the middle of a clearing, planted some daffodils, and kept the area mowed. They found 2 other marble stones with only initials. Whenever I walk these woods, I scan the ground for rocks that may be grave markers. The vultures remind me to keep an eye out. I visit Mr. Arnold's tombstone regularly. It's a 4-foot marble monument. At the top is a carved relief of hands clasping as if in friendship. Lines of swirling script reveal a stanza of a 19th century Baptist funeral hymn. Sister, thou wast mild and lovely. And I searched for the tune on YouTube. Yet again, we hope to meet thee when the days of life have fled, then in heaven with joy to greet thee, where no farewell tears are shed. A brief search into cemeteries in Madison County offers this small morsel of information. This cemetery was destroyed, and only remains of tombstones can be found, one of which was engraved Newton S. Arnold, 1842 to June 1892. This was a Negro, but whites were buried in the cemetery also. Newton Arnold was likely born into slavery and became prominent and respected enough to have a 4-foot monument. I still know nothing of his life or what caused his death at age 50. Most old Southern cemeteries are listed as black or white, rarely both. I don't know why this cemetery was integrated, nor how many graves lie among the ferns and mossy logs and stones beyond our gate. I touch the lichen-encrusted marble monument and pause and talk to Mr. Arnold and the others. My dogs find a piece of deer skeleton and I jump at the sight of bones. This erased cemetery near our home is among thousands of untended African-American graveyards. After Black communities were decimated by the reign of terror and the strict racial codes that spawned the Great Migration, there was the problem of not enough living people or economic infrastructure left for communities to care for the places our dead are buried. I showed a photo of the tombstone to a friend at a party. A woman I just met tells me she understands. She's white, born and raised in South Georgia. Oh yes, I heard how my granddaddy did that to a Black cemetery in our town. He got on his tractor and plowed it down in the middle of the night, planted soybeans. I hope the Haints came up and got him good for that. It's not strange around here to stand and talk of ghosts in a friend's kitchen, as if talking about a flock of birds. On one of my walks to the cemetery, I see two vultures in my path. I recognize the one with the wounded wing. I'm not sure if it was born this way or injured, but I've watched it for months, and how the other vultures bring it food, stay with it, and help it to survive. It hops along the ground like an old man. Occasionally, it gathers strength to flap and perch on a low branch, but it doesn't float on the breezes with the others. As I approach, its companion flies into the woods, but the wounded one remains on the path, hopping along toward Mr. Arnold's tombstone, as if he were expecting me, as if he were my guide. In May of 1803, dozens of Igbo men, women, and children from Nigeria walked off the ship that had trafficked them from Savannah to St. Simon's Island in Georgia. Instead of walking their bare, shackled feet onto the sandy shore, they obeyed the voice of their leader, who sang about the sea. The water brought us here. The water will bring us home. They joined the song and walked deeper into the water. This act of resistance, choosing death over enslavement, took on mythic proportions among enslaved Africans who remained on the ground. Legends grew that these Igbo people walked on the water straight back home to Africa. Other legends say they spread their arms into long black wings and took flight. Just after reading about Igbo landing and people taking flight, I walk out my front door and two vultures swoop down from a high perch, landing directly in front of me, and I don't jump back. I watch them hissing and grunting at one another, wings spread, necks straining. I wait, listening to what they're trying to say. So I've been doing this project. I'm going to be reading this vulture piece up in Vermont this fall, and this creative project I'm part of is sort of meditating on this one line from Alexis Pauline Gumbs' Undrowned: Black Feminist Lessons for Marine Mammals. And the question she asks is, how can we listen across species, across extinction, across harm? And this is a little poem I wrote about snakes and about our senses. Ears stay open, even at night. Ears turn sounds into dreams. We can listen with our feet. Snakes smell with forked tongues. Snakes never blink. They see through windows covered with curtains so thin, always letting in the light. And I wrote this piece about the black rat snake and about snakes. And I guess it was inspired by, has anybody read Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe? I read it in high school. I went to Washington, D.C. public schools, and I realized that was pretty special to get to read Chinua Achebe in high school. So if you haven't read it, it's not too late. But I referenced it in the beginning and I explained. So in Chinua Achebe's novel, Things Fall Apart, the snake is a good sign. Every house needs a snake. They keep the mice down. And among the Igbo of Nigeria, they are a manifestation of the divine. In many traditional West African religions, if a person kills a snake accidentally, they must make atonement and conduct a small funeral for the animal. In Achebe's novel, a newly converted Christian, in order to prove the power of his newfound God, kills a python on purpose. This crime is so unimaginable that the community did not have a punishment for anyone that would kill a snake on purpose. Black rat snakes are plentiful near our home in Northwest Georgia. Their color ranges from brown to black. The immatures have white markings that fade with age. Copperheads are the only venomous snakes I've seen in our area, though rattlers and cottonmouths are also in this range. Venom is precious, and most snakes bite only when provoked. Snakes don't have to be our enemies. Soon after he moved to Georgia, my husband, Michael, killed a copperhead because that was the thing to do. And he resolved never to do it again. It felt cruel and unnecessary, more symbolic than effective. They say for every snake you see, there are 40 more hiding. Instead, we've trained ourselves to exercise caution. Look before stepping or reaching, keep brush away from the house, stay calm. We're teaching our children to live with snakes. And as my daughter Phoebe reminds me, she wishes we had a pet snake. We haven't gotten to that point yet. But snakes are a recurring theme in my children's childhoods, especially my son Malachi. There's a picture of him up against my chest as I'm rocking on the porch swing, and his reptile brain is imprinting scales in motion in a sense of wonder at the snake in his father's hands. We watched a man on a trolley carry a white python wrapped around his shoulders on the trolley in Philadelphia, where we used to live. On his 8th birthday, a friend sent Malachi a photo of him and his best friends lying on a pier, just watching the snake undulate across the water. And when we moved to Georgia, Malachi learned how to catch the black rat snakes that lurked in the chicken coop. And at one point we had 4 containers, 4 snakes in one container on our front porch, and their bellies were bulging with eggs and chicks. In one photo of Malachi, a snake rests across his arm like a lasso and regards the camera in a calm repose. In another, he lifts 3 snakes in one hand and smiles, and their heads are all reaching in different directions. On his 10th birthday, I baked him a snake cake. 2 short bun cakes arranged like a snake with icing holding them together and tic-tac bangs. And like a mythic hero, my son triumphantly sliced off the cake head. Well, one summer afternoon, a car stops in front of our house and we hear gunshots. Michael had just gotten home from work. I was out front with my father and the children. A neighbor child was walking through our yard towards home. And Michael shouted, "Get down." My father and I herded all the children into the house. And my husband walked empty-handed toward the car with an ease I'll never fully understand. The driver, an older white man, fired his handgun again, point blank, at a large black snake. "Excuse me," Michael shouted. "What do you think you're doing?" "We saw a snake in the road, so we stopped to kill it." The man's wife remained in the car. "There are children in our yard. You're shooting close to our property. We don't want you doing that," my husband responded. The mortally wounded snake slithered off into the grass. "It's just a black rat snake. It's not dangerous," my husband said. The man looked confused. He thought he was a hero protecting us from danger. Michael was firm. The only danger we perceived was him and his gun. "Well, we won't help you anymore," the woman huffed as they drove away. Some live by the rule that the only good snake is a dead snake. They learn to shoot first, ask questions later. Others handle venomous snakes in church and refuse medical treatment to prove their faithfulness. We are trying to live in a way that neither destroys nor provokes. We are learning to catch and release, to live and let live. And between snakes and vigilante neighbors, I find the snakes to be the lesser threat. Okay, and this last one is a poem that I wrote a few years ago. I wrote this in June of 2015. I wrote it before a 19-year-old kid walked into Mother Emanuel Church and killed 9 people for being Black. I wrote about the Confederate flag and how haunting it is and strange it is to see it on a regular basis in this part of the country. I lived in DC and Philadelphia before coming here. You don't generally see Confederate flags, although they seem to be increasing in their presence across the country. But yeah, I wrote this in June, right before this happened, and then unfortunately it feels even still relevant today. One piece of background information is my dear husband, who killed a copperhead but didn't kill a vulture, and we've been married for 21 years. When we were engaged, he told me, you know, I've got to tell you something. When I was a teenager, I had a Confederate flag on my wall, and he knew I might break up with him for that. And I had to definitely see the person that he is and not the person that he was. So I believe people can change and grow, and they can throw the flags away, which is what he did years before we met. But anyway, this is the poem about the flag, kind of as his ex-girlfriend. So, and it's called "Lay Her to Rest." She keeps waving from the back of pickup trucks, strutting up to the bar in that 150-year-old dress of scarlet, indigo, and bone. Poor thing, bless her heart. She swings from poles. She just keeps on going like a star. She was my husband's first love, whispered sweet in his lily petal ear. Be proud you're from the South. He pinned her up in his room. And a dear brother of his said, that's not love. Hearing how men with barbed wire bats, shiny black shoes, and offices with whips, white sheets, and executive power had used her, he dumped her. I kept him glad to never see her flapping around my town until he moved down. Now she haunts me about every day. I see her flying with her older sisters out on Highway 72, erected by the sons of men now dead who held on too tight to lies about gray and black and being white. I've seen her spread on my neighbor's bed, their house, the smell of fish sauce and acrid memories of war. They don't know her story. She's just a soft blanket, a gift of welcome to another battleground. This old rag's been fighting all her life, been working like hell. Even the ones who love her and claim her as their own call her bloodstained. What if she just gave up the fight? Lay out in the sun on a bed of foxtails, let her threads fade into the soft black earth. Let Queen Anne's lace and chicory sprout from her stars and poppies bloom. Just lay yourself down and rest once and for all in peace.
Thank you so much, Josina. So I saw that the final poem that you read is in the anthology, and could you show?
Oh, yes, and actually, can I say one thing? Real quick?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So this is called Fight Evil with Poetry. I have a few copies if you'd like to buy them. And also, please check out Bigger Than Bravery. I couldn't read from it today because it hasn't launched yet, but it was edited by Valerie Boyd, who was my mentor, who passed away in February, and it's going to be amazing. So it's a collection of essays by Black writers about the pandemic. And so Bigger Than Bravery, check it out. And also you can get this.
And what about vultures?
Vultures.
How can we find that?
Oh, that one is it's online.
Okay.
You just
Okay.
search vultures, Josina Guess.
Okay.
Read that essay. Yeah. Thanks.
very powerful work.
Yeah,
Thank you so
thanks.
much. It's so great. Take just a minute before we go to our final performer today and talk a little bit about this incredibly wonderful community that we find ourselves in. I was at an event, I just moved down from Raleigh in June, and there was an event in Madison at the Cultural Center called Stirring the Pot. There was a wonderful show up during the summer with the artist Zipporah Camille Thompson. And in this program, Stirring the Pot, we had there was a great discussion, great panel, wonderful people were there, a lot of discussions about the diversity of the community that we live in. And I met somebody really wonderful there called Nick Clark. And when we spoke, Nick, if you could come up just for a minute. Nick is doing some incredible work with Black Futures Lab and a lot of, and I don't want to do too much, I'm going to let you explain, but if you could explain a little bit about Black Futures Lab and the civic engagement work that you're doing. I want to give the floor to Nick just for a moment.
So I'm Nick Clark. I work with Black Futures Lab, not a poet, not a musician, not a visual artist, but organizer nonetheless, work with Black Futures Lab. What we do, we work with Black communities to help give them the tools and resources they need to solve the problems affecting our community and to come up with solutions to those problems. And then eventually the goal is to transform the way that power works so that it works for Black folks as well. So what we're doing, we're conducting the Black census. Black folks are often spoken about, but rarely given the floor to speak for ourselves. So what the census is hoping to do is to get the opinions, dreams, hopes, collect all of that of Black folks, and then use that information to activate Black people to vote and to form legislation that actually solve some of the problems affecting our community. So here to invite everyone who identifies as Black to take the census. I have some little cards at the front at the desk, have a QR code that you click on to take the survey. Only takes 10 minutes. Yeah. So yeah, just wanted to make y'all aware of that.
Thank you so much.
Oh,
I
you're
really
welcome.
appreciate you coming in. The cards are at the front desk, and we're going to keep them at the front desk too beyond today's event. And thank you, Nick, for coming. Nick's partner is the artist, Zipporah Camille Thompson, who has a big show coming up at Mocha GA. So when does it open? Do you remember?
November 11th.
November 11th.
She's so shy and self-deprecating, but incredibly talented.
Incredible.
So hopefully y'all can make it.
Yes. Looks like a great one, and I know she's full on with it right now, so we couldn't have her here with us today. But thank you so much for coming. We have one more performer. We've had such a great show today so far. Wonderful people here. Lots of great things to be thinking about. So many visuals, and I'm feeling really inspired. I'm so happy to have you here. When I first got up here and I was talking about how we had an event planned 2 years ago, we had Linqua Franqa ready to perform at that event, and it got canceled. And so as soon as Mandy started talking about having spoken word, we said, we have got to get Linqua Franqa. I wonder if they'll be able to come. And we are so thrilled to have you with us here today. And I want to say just a little bit about Linqua Franqa is a legislator and a linguist and hip hop artist rooted in Athens, Georgia. Parker now has their PhD in language and literacy education from UGA, and their music grapples with the oft unseen nuances and contradictions of life as a queer Black femme in the American South. The impacts of racial violence, systemic roots of mental health struggle, contradictory truths about queer and self-love, as well as potential paths toward collective healing and liberation. I love that so much, I had to just read it. And I want to put in a personal thing too with Linqua Franqa. Their music is on Spotify and other platforms, Bandcamp. Their new album out is Bell Ringer, and it is phenomenal. I highly recommend it. So somebody to keep your eye on and to go do some further research, finding more information. If you're not already a fan, you will be. I'd like to turn it over to you. Thank you for joining me.
Good.
Feeling good?
Yes.
When I say feeling good, y'all say feeling good. Feeling good?
Feeling good.
Feeling good?
Feeling good.
I'm feeling great, although I gotta throw a little bit of shade at Steffen Museum of Art real quick for making me go after Josina gets the title. How rude of you. So make some noise for them one more time. Also, I'm just playing. It is a true honor to finally be here after many years of delay. So make some noise one time for Mandy. Incredible closing reception for an incredible exhibition. Now, I do dabble in poetry, some might say. And I may be said to create music. Mandy might agree. But in mixing oration with personal recollection and narrative, with a little bit of singing, perhaps, all boiling together in the cast iron pot of soul and hip hop, I, this evening, might seek to amend what happened in the ancient times when the Tower of Babel was struck down, when us of a shared language who could do the impossible found our language confounded and us scattered across the earth. In bringing together these tongues that we subdivide in the cabinets, in the corners, to bring these things together, to remind ourselves that when we find these syntheses, we can do the impossible. So I see y'all like, got this going on Zoom, something like this. I saw a gentleman over here with his phone out. So you feel free to take a pic of my visage. People, you're missing it. The sickest lyricist of the misses is freaking ripping it.
Come on.
I'm feeling lifted, I'm lifted, I'm lifted. You called me Icarus, like the flow warm as the glow orb by which Icarus had his whiskers crisp. Mystic, I skipped the stone as Sisyphus across the river Styx, because sticks and stones might break bones, but homophones will leave you pistol whipped. And I ain't trying to kill your kids. I'm just trying to elevate your mind like Hermione might with a swish and flick. Flyer than all the other witches on the Quidditch pitch. And it's got nothing to do with fashion. It's stacking no Benjamins. It's the pride derived in packing synonyms so syntactically dense that it's practically senseless. Like, tell me which end is which. And in case you're wondering which kid this is, I'm just a rhythmless vanilla kid with a villainous silhouette, brilliance like filaments when it comes to spitting syllables. Half because I sit up in my room with synonyms added, infinitum, sweet as M&Ms. Tip them over triplets, half because instead of speaking, I ink it. Instead of sleeping or eating, I'm tweaking or reading from Steven Pinker, typing up my thesis in Helvetica, etc., etc. Whoa, rhymes are like so meta, bro. Because as a linguist, I do a lot of talking about talking. And I do a lot of thinking about what we can put into words that is intangible, that lives only in the mind. And this evening, I have on my heart thoughts of the ancestors of mine when they were brought to this country and they found themselves with their Tower of Babel shattered. And that their families were fractured from their tribes, were fractured from their nations. And they were mixed together in a cast iron pot on the plantation fields with people who did not share their tongue. And I think of them often in the forms of resistance they engaged in. But that is as far back as I can go when I think of my mother tongue. Because what is a mother someone who has never seen the motherland? What is a mother tongue to someone born of African stock as well? My indigenous great-great-great-great-great-great-grand folks who occupied the Halawasaponi lands of rural North Carolina. But when I visit those lands, they are not there any longer to share with me that tongue. What is a mother tongue to people who could not concretize the intangible in their minds, that in their motherlands they could speak more sweetly than we could possibly imagine, but found somewhere strange and new and hostile? They were creative. They were inventive. They found ways to not only adapt the language of the new land to their flavor, but to use it against those who spoke it natively. This is to say a few things. In the nighttime, my great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfolk would steal away in the night and clamber into holes in the ground in the forest. So absolute was the illegality of literacy. They would read through slits of moonlight trickling between the trees to learn the words of their master. They may not have the right, let alone the freedom, the choice, the ability to express the intangible in their minds to others using their tongues of old. But they fought to find a new kind of mother tongue in hostile lands by any means that they could, even if it begged the slobbering dogs to tear at their flesh should they be caught in the act. They read these words in the moonlight, and they studied in secret. And they went on to craft literary prose of a sweetness that we perhaps cannot, in contemporary context, fully appreciate. So removed are we from the absolute terror of the act, of the rebellion, of putting pen to paper, of opening a tome and running one's fingers under the words growing familiar with practice. So what is my mother tongue? What is it if that, if those humble beginnings are the closest thing that I can trace on this continent, the only continent that I know my family from? What is a mother tongue when you have not seen the motherland and you have not felt or seen its shape? Because a mother tongue communicates certain things, but mama's got eyes and mama's got fingers that type and wisp in the air. Mama's got that look, you know the one I'm talking about. You know the one I'm talking about when the street lights are going out and you kind of see that like hip cock shoulders, a little a sway with that anger that we communicate through the body as well. So when I think about my mother's tongue and my mother's form, I think about in the post-Reconstruction South, the school teachers who read in secret from books like those of Carter G. Woodson underneath their desks, but eyes shoot forward when administrators pass so that they could not see her deviating from their strictly mandated curriculum. The communication of the eyes darting forward in obedience to speak to them that they were walking the straight and narrow. Nothing to see here, principal. The way that creates rhythm, the stomping and the snapping and the swaying and the clapping to communicate our joy, to express our capacity to be free. What does a mother tongue even matter when we have so many rich avenues to express at our disposal? What is my mother tongue? My mother tongue feels like beach music, sung under the boardwalk. We was walking along under the boardwalk. We was having some fun under the boardwalk. I'm forgetting the song under the boardwalk, but y'all can sing it along under the boardwalk. Boardwalk. It sounds like harmonizing in the passenger seat of my mom's car, driving down to Ocean Isle Beach. Her yelling out, "Hold your suck!" She takes a corner a little bit too fast, and all the shoeboxes and things in the back seat would clatter across like derby horses. It feels like gospel singing. Songs of a better world than we today have, than we then had. It feels like Lil Wayne and 2 Chainz and all the songs that I might have gone up on the internet and downloaded on Napster. Who's young enough to remember Napster? Napster. Turn it down real quick. My mom come in. Oh yeah, I'll do it. I'm algebra. It's algebra. And my mother tongue feels like the internet. I remember when I was 9. I got my first AOL account. They had the little desk that come in the mail, the free trial. You put it in there. Go on the little chat room, and it's evolved into a language that my generation is almost native in, but I know y'all know it better than I do. But it feels like my mother tongue. And all these things together feel disparate, cast over here and there. I'm sitting in City Hall. I'm talking nice and proper like I'm sitting on CNN. I hit the streets maybe about 2 a.m. and I'm in a freestyle cipher defending who I am. And I'm sitting in class making a little list of adjectives, calculating grade point averages till I'm maddened with avarice. But I told myself no matter how bad it gets, I wouldn't go back to the battle days because I had a ball, but I had to quit. But there's so few scholars whose asses is African. All I'm asking is to end the censorship, banish the asterisk, but my natural habitat's having a habit that I haven't kicked. And the way that we subdivide, cast aside, analyze different ways of being, trying to bring all those things together, it's hard to identify just one single mother tongue. But perhaps that is the beauty of that we are born again with each new way we find to express that our parents, our linguistic heritage is rich and it knows no one single tributary. That we can take the master's tongue and speak in it rebellious things and the slave spirituals. My ancestors once sung. They encoded passageways to freedom, and perhaps that is part of why today, the way we speak, y'all might have heard a call back in the 90s, something called Bonnie. It's still so misunderstood in the popular consciousness. Because of this thing that my foremother in the linguistic struggle, Geneva Smitherman, called indirection. It's this gift that speakers of this tongue have to say something on the slide, kind of sideways with simile and metaphor and with a wink, so that only those on the inside know what you're talking about. It might be seen in the classroom as misbehaving. But it is a gift that we inherited. It is our linguistic heritage from the days of old. When they know what they talking about with the follow the drinking gourd, what does that mean? When we encoded secrets in the songs that we sung. Is that perhaps today why this rich dialect, this powerful army of synonyms and grammatical variation is feared and not just misunderstood? Could be, could be. But I think about the phrase, wait, no, let's go. If it's not broke, don't fix it. Yeah, that's right. If it's not broke, don't fix it. Because folks try to say that our language is broken. Yo, that's broken English. Don't see me. Excuse me, that's broken English. But I want to do an experiment with y'all real quick. So I'm going to tell you a couple phrases, and I'm going to ask y'all to pick out which one is grammatical. Which one sounds right? Some of y'all might be able to step on through. So he telling the truth, we telling the truth, he telling the truth, you telling the truth, I telling the truth. Which one sounds a little weird? All of them. Oh, you got to say all of them. Now, folks out here saying all of them. I would gander that you might not have ever heard. I certainly not have ever heard. I certainly have never heard. Linguist, supposedly. Somebody out here in the wild say, I telling the truth. Mm-hmm. But have you heard someone say he telling the truth? Mm-hmm. Yes. And did you know what they meant? Yes. Because even if it deviates from the norm, there is a certain kind of thing you can and cannot say, even if you ain't gonna read that in the English textbook in 7th grade. It is actually a fact that African American vernacular English is the most studied dialect in the entire world. There are thousands upon thousands of pages written about the systematicity of this language that they're trying to tell y'all is broken. There is a grammar. There are certain conditions under which it may be used. There are certain rules that guide it in social interaction. Just as rules and grammar conditions bind the English of Queen Elizabeth. And so when we think back about how if it's not broke, don't fix it. Perhaps what is not broken, linguist. Perhaps it is not African American English that is broken. It is a language ideology that refuses to see how it coheres. What is its science? And what is its beauty? And so as a linguist, supposedly, a lot of what I do is study the science of the way that our language is both penalized and coveted. I've studied the way that white rappers like Lil Dicky and Rob Sonic style shift into the way that we speak in certain contexts, because imagine how they would be laughed out of the hip hop game if they did not know and could not use our rules. I studied the way that white youth in the suburbs appropriate our slang and our grammar and our phonetics, our syntax and our morphology to convey masculinity. Study this so I can take this as a teacher back to Black youth and say, look how coveted the way you speak is. Look at how much people love the thing you do. To push back on a language ideology permeating our school system that tries to say that our language is broken. But look, it ain't broken. I'm not here to fix it. People think the linguists are here to tell you what is and is not grammatical. And yeah, I'm sorry, I got a little bang for a second. But the fact of the matter is, as a linguist, my job is to understand how something makes sense. My job is to understand if I tell my husband, yo, have you seen him lately? Do you know where he is? I am obviously talking about our 1-year-old son. So to understand how we were able to communicate that without saying who I was talking about, that is my goal, not to tell y'all how you need to speak. How y'all feeling? Feel good still? Y'all feeling good?
Yeah.
Y'all feeling good?
Yeah.
All right, we got a mixture. I like that mixture. That's what tonight is all about, the mixture. We had some yes, we had some feeling good, we had some people silent, like looking at their watch right now. But to think about the way that my ancestors encoded messages of rebellion through music and the way they moved and the way they used the master's tongue, I, tonight, am also calling for another kind of rebellion, a linguistic rebellion, one by which we start to retake our view of ourselves from a language ideology that tries to say that our language is broken. To flip the script on how we are pressured to view ourselves and view our relationship to power. Think about the fact that, have y'all ever heard Barack Obama? Barack Obama, familiar?
Yeah.
All right, well, let's see. That's a terrible impression. So, fellow linguists have posited how he was able to ascend to power not just because he spoke very fine English from Harvard, but he could also dap somebody up as they were getting their change at the diner and say, oh, you need a receipt? Now we straight. To be able to navigate the world multiculturally in one's language is asset, not a weakness. And so we got to flip that script on the way we're taught in the grammar books, dotting the I's and crossing the T's, as a kind of precursor to changing the world more broadly. And with that said, I gotta bring it back around, do I? Because you're probably wondering how all these things go together, but it is, as my fellow linguist Noam Chomsky once said, colorless green ideas sleep furiously. It was a sentence he generated to show that grammar is not contingent upon semantics. That is to say, even if something doesn't make sense, you can put it together in a way that makes sense. Colorless green ideas sleep furiously. You can't picture it, but there is a coherence to it all that you feel in your body. And so I gotta bring it back around because the grammar of all this to me is that feeling of soul. Even with a skin like cinnamon latte and a talk way so chalk white, like a dufflock at a cockfight, all my life getting told that I'm chocolate, that I'm scary spice. Doesn't even matter if I'm posh spice with a dark side. I feel fairly bright, but it doesn't matter. So it might get shot dead under cock lights like a bad dog. That's another case left to suffocate like a tadpole at a water or bottom-fed parasite left to bake on the pavement in Fahrenheit of a summer day when her mother waits feeling terrified. And she's wondering whether I'm running late and my body's traced in a chalk line to be verified. I got some food for thought, but not that proper stuff for sustenance. More like some squash butternut, processed for pumpkin dip. Couple of lumps in it, but otherwise smooth. So the assumption is the substance when I feel like I really haven't said nothing yet. I'm equal parts exhibitionist and glutton for punishment. Feeble-hearted existentialist, not worthy publishing like this man. Better vocab, so fat. But if you understood, you understand that I'm I'm working at saying something yet. And all these self-doubts drawn about from this sense of lineagelessness. Being torn between worlds under that pressure to conform grammatically. To articulate my R's and look up that word I didn't understand in the textbook, so then when the teacher calls on me, I can be like, yeah, soliloquy, yeah, I know about that. To fit into a language ideology which tries to say it's broken and you gotta fix it. Like my fellow contemporary poet from the West Coast, Earl Sweatshirt, once said, trying to fit in to white for the black kids and to black for the white, going from honor roll to cracking bikes off a bicycle rack to contend with this simmering in this cast iron pot. It's difficult sometimes, but it is so important to reclaim that sense of rootedness, even if it is rooted in the truth that we may always be reborn. We may always find new footing and find gratitude in that footing. We will always be proud of the various influences that brought us to where we are. We are allowed to mourn those that we have forgotten or have never had permission to visit. The motherlands we might never see. It's okay. It's okay to feel shaken, because I do. To feel nauseated, unable to take a break from the news, to feel like breaking a nose or pacing the room or baking some scones, only to chuck it in a lake and lagoon, to maybe contemplate hanging a noose. But we planted the seeds for years, and we need you here to savor the fruit. You might feel like a single link in the chain, but baby, there's billions of us, and we form a breakable loop. All that to say, I hope that bringing together these little pieces of various ancestries, of the various places from which we have been reborn, maybe we rebuild that tower a tiny little bit this evening. And going forward, I recognize I will be linguistically reborn. I don't know what my footing will be, but I'm excited to march forward and find out what's next for the way we speak and to whom we speak and what we need to say to face the moments ahead of us. And I know with certainty, I ain't gonna let nobody turn me round, turn me round. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me round, turn me round. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me round, turn me round. Gonna keep on walking till I keep on talking, 'cause I miss the motherland, 'cause I miss the motherland. Thank you very much. I have vinyl records. Are you all familiar with those records?
Yes.
I have vinyl records of my album here this evening. If you would like one, for the young folks, I guess they make good wall decor. Young people love these things. I'm like, okay, I'm pretty sure you don't even know this plays music, but cool. But yeah, feel free to come out and buy one on your way out. And thank you so much again for having me.
Thank you so much, everybody, for coming tonight. I hope you have enjoyed our performances, and I hope you will come back and check us out. Our next event that we have coming up, our next exhibition opens in 2 weeks. It is a printmaking show, and we are going to be working with Atlanta printmaker Chloe Alexander. She is on Instagram, the Hapless Printmaker. Follow her, she's fantastic. And she's going to be doing live demonstrations here October 1st. Chloe Alexander, so that's our next program that's coming up. She's going to do artist in residence all week. We've got student groups coming in, but the live demo with the printmaking is going to be pretty fabulous. And it's hard to top tonight, though. This was just a wonderful event. Thank you all so much for coming. Have a great evening.
Oh, I already did. I did. Yes.